3 games changed how I think forever. They made me slower, more deliberate, and much more comfortable with uncertainty. And if you play them the right way, I think they can do exactly the same for you. Not because they're emotional, not because they're cinematic. They are both of those things, but because of the habits they quietly train into you over time. This isn't about nostalgia or saying that these are the best games ever made. It's about what they reward you with and what they punish you with if you actually engage with them properly. The first one really surprised me the most. It's Death Stranding. Not so much Death Stranding 2, but the first game. When people talk about Death Stranding, they usually talk about how weird it is, or how slow it is, or how it's just a walking simulator. But to me, that misses the point entirely. Death Stranding isn't just about walking, it's about planning. Maybe it's a planning simulator. Every journey asks you a question before you even take your first steps out the door. Have you thought this through? You have to look at what you're carrying, what terrain you're about to cross, weather systems. What happens if it rains? What happens if something goes wrong halfway there? And in that game you encounter it all in bucket loads. Sometimes you're walking with no shoes on because you planned the journey completely incorrectly. And in that game you never die suddenly. Instead, it lets you fail really slowly. Like I said, dragging your feet. You trip because you overloaded yourself. You run out of equipment because you didn't prepare. You lose balance because you rushed. This game taught me more than high school ever did. And the game doesn't scold you for it. It just lets the consequences play out and sink in. Over time, you stop reacting moment to moment like you would in another game. You stop improvising recklessly. You start thinking 3 steps ahead and manage all the systems like a boss. You check the map more carefully, you pack lighter and things that you know you'll need. You leave tools for other players, not because the game tells you to, but because it feels smart to do so. And you know in turn, you will be rewarded or helped for that. And somewhere along the way, that mindset starts to sink in to real life. You start asking the same questions every single time you go out the door, every time you take on a new task. What happens if this takes longer than I expect? What is the cost of rushing this project or whatever it is? What would make this easier later? Death Stranding trains patience through systems and not through sermons. It rewards preparation, it punishes impulse. A lot like real life does sometimes. And once that clicks, you don't unlearn it. It's a life lesson. There's no fluff here today, guys. We're going straight into the second one, which is Red Dead 2. And this was all about learning how to slow down. If Death Stranding taught me, how to think forward, Red Dead 2 taught me to stop rushing towards the next thing and the next goal. This is a game that constantly resists your desire to just get on with it. They purposely slowed down animation. Travel and traversal takes time. Looting isn't instant. Every movement causes some kind of weight or reaction or animation. At first, it feels a bit inconvenient, like sticky or something, like the game is getting in your way. But slowly, if you let it, something changes internally. You stop sprinting everywhere. You stop skipping travel. You stop treating the world like an obstacle course between the objectives. And that also teaches you to take in the beauty of the world. You start being present in the game. It's really genius, actually. You notice the weather, you notice the conversations you'd normally ride past or skip past. You notice how often nothing dramatic is actually happening and how intentional that actually feels. So Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't afraid of silence. It doesn't constantly stimulate you. It trusts that the atmosphere and the presence are enough. And in doing so, it retains your sense of pace. So I guess we're not just talking about pace, we're talking about presence too. You become more comfortable with downtime, more patient with the friction, and less anxious about wasting time. Because there is no wasted time. And that's really rare in a game that you can play for hundreds of hours, especially in modern games. A lot of games these days are terrified of losing your attention for even a second. They just create addiction cycles. It's slow because it understands something that most games don't anymore. That true meaning comes from contrast. That moments matter more when everything isn't just screaming at you. And once you internalize that, it's hard not to notice how rushed everything else feels in normal life and in the gaming world. And the third game is The Witcher 3. Learning to live in that grey area. The Witcher 3 does something trickier than the first two games I've been talking about. It refuses to give you a clear answer. Most games present morality like a math problem, or even simpler. Good choice, bad choice, light and dark. The Witcher 3 almost never does that. You make decisions with incomplete information, just like in real life. You act with good intentions and still you can cause harm. You choose between outcomes that all feel wrong in different ways. Sometimes you just have to choose the poison. You don't get to not choose it. And crucially, the game often doesn't tell you whether you made the right choice or not. And people will be left feeling about different situations in different ways. Again, just like in real life. There's no scoreboard. There's no moral tally. Just consequences. Sometimes delayed, sometimes subtle, sometimes deeply uncomfortable. I'm laughing a bit to myself now because I'm thinking about some of the things that happened in the game that completely shocked me and instantly changed how my mind works. Over time, you stop looking for the optimal answer. You stop trying to solve situations. You start asking different questions. You start more internalizing or being introspective. So what can I live with? What is the decision really for? What am I willing to accept the cost of? Are you actually a playboy? It's not some power fantasy morality. It's just adult choices. The game doesn't reward you for being pure, and it doesn't reward you for being honest about trade-offs. And again, your brain internalizes that to deal with situations in real life, because life rarely offers you a black and white choice. It offers you context, there's always pressure, there's uncertainty, and asks you to act in any way you feel natural. It doesn't guide you in any certain direction. It therefore makes you feel a bit more responsible. So why do these games especially stick? What connects these three games isn't genre, tone, or mechanics. They're all completely different. It's what they reward and what they punish. So I would say to a certain extent, they all reward thinking ahead. They all reward slowing down, accepting uncertainty. They don't rush to validate you. And they don't constantly tell you you're doing a great job. They let you sit with the fiction for a little while until it becomes reality. And then that's why they also linger after you've stopped playing. Not because they're perfect, but because they respect the player enough to trust them with the discomfort they generate. A lot of modern games are really afraid of that. They smooth every edge, they optimize away any hesitation. They turn uncertainty into a problem to be solved instantly. Or they don't even give you the choice in the first place. These games don't do that. They let uncertainty exist, and in doing so, they make you better at handling it in real life. So I don't think games change your life in dramatic, cinematic ways, but I do think they shape how you approach problems. Quietly and over time, they train your brain to approach and solve problems in a certain way, in a better way. And these three taught me to slow down, plan ahead, and to accept that not every decision has a clean or reasonable answer. That's not something you notice in the moment. You notice it later when other games feel rushed, shallow, or strangely hollow. So guys, let me know in the comments, have you been changed by any games? What do you think of these three games specifically? And if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll catch you next time. Cheers.